Welcome to the Velocity of Now. Me, your host, Thomas Sheridan. It's Wednesday, the 27th of April. We're heading closer now to Valpurgis night at Beltane of April 2016. I hope you're all keeping well, and thank you as usual for tuning in tonight and listening to me on this show that so many of you tell me is the best show out there in alternative radio, and I'd be inclined to agree with that. Well, it's one of the best, but as a one-man show with no guests, I think I'm definitely the best. This is probably why I'll never be the most popular show on alternative radio or alternative broadcasting, simply for the reason is that I don't cater to fear porn. I don't lie to you for popularity or money or anything like that. I speak my mind, and some people get very angry at what I say, and I don't care. I'm not here. I'm not a performing seal. I'm not a monkey organ grinder. I'm not here to indulge you for the sake of my popularity. If you don't like what I say on some things, well, tough shit. I don't tune that out. I don't care. Now, last week's show on magic, well, you went mental for that. You absolutely loved it. I was a little bit apprehensive. In fact, a friend told me I shouldn't do it when I mentioned I was going to do it. And I said, no, it'll be okay. The people who listen to my show, they're not, ticko-throofers. They're people who've moved. They've looked in the truth scene. They've moved out of it and are now onto something else. They're almost like a new bohemians, and they're relearning again. They've woken up for the second time. I said, I have no problem with it. And you make me so proud of yourselves, because not only did you not have no problem with it, but you totally got it, and you totally embraced what I was trying to do and what I was on about last week. And thank you for that. I'm very, very proud of my audience. When I look at the comments you left and the messages and the emails that came through, I'm very, very proud of you guys. You're really on board with what I'm trying to do. You've really joined the conversation as participants, and this is the way out of it. This is the way we build a new reality, not by someone, watching, some videos on YouTube and deciding that they're satanic programming and then going on the radio and pointing out this. That's all childishness. That's like video games. We don't play video games in the philosophy now. We're a philosophical outlet. In fact, all my work ultimately comes back to philosophy and natural philosophy. And so, thank you for that. If you want to support me, go to my website, thomassheridanarts.com. You can either buy a book there, or if you click on the blog tab on the right-hand side, you'll see a link on the blog there. You can, people say to me, I'd love to buy a pint, but I live in Australia. I'd love to buy a pint, but I live in Canada. Well, buy me a pint there. You can buy me a pint or a slice of pizza there. And if you want to tip me, that's great. It's not a donation, it's a tip. And thank you very much for that. I work hard for a living, and you don't make much money from writing books. And I even work a part-time job at the weekend, and believe me, I struggle just as much as anyone else. And the main reason I struggle in the so-called truth movement is I don't lie to people, and I don't pander to expectations of what people want, the greatest hits of truth. I don't do that. What you get is the same subjects and interests that have interested me from the start, and I'm not going to change. Now, you were saying there about, so many were saying, tell us more about ritual magic. You gave us a basic idea of ritual magic, and yeah, we'll do that tonight, definitely. But I'm not going to actually say join this school of magic or join this theory of magic. I'll recommend a couple of books at the end, but what I'm basically going to do tonight is, those of you who are serious about indulging in ritual magic, what I'm going to do is, last week I introduced you to what magic actually is, and now you know it's not Harry Potter. It's not summoning up, devils to kill your enemies. It's none of those things. It's a form of artistic, poetic philosophies to create change in the material world, and it's got a beauty of theatre about it. And so we'll deal a little bit more on that tonight, but also, and this is very, very important if you're attempting to go into the study of ritual magic, very, very important that you have a good psychological, emotional, and spiritual grounding before you even go there. By that I mean, suppose your life is falling apart or has fallen apart, your girlfriend or husband has left you for someone else, is shagging someone else and not you now. You've lost your job, you hate politicians, you're full of hate, you're full of anger, you want some kind of revenge. You're not ready to do ritual magic. You're just not there. You're not ready. You're psychologically, spiritually, and emotionally not ready for the task. And anything you try either won't work or it will be very dangerous. And that's what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to try and talk you into the preparation. This is almost like before you can begin ritual magic, you must take a kind of a ritual bath. And this ritual bath is not so much with water, it's the washing away of anything in terms of psychic or especially toxic energy, which may interfere with the process in terms of not delivering the results or, more worryingly, causing something to go wrong. Now, when Crowley was coming up with Thelema, and when he was really pushing the idea of Thelema and the Thelemites, and his work was really getting out there, I have speculated, and I think it's a good theory, that both he and Gerald Gardner invented Wicca in order to keep the morons and the dangerous idiots from actually practicing real magic. Because magic was really beginning to take off. And Crowley, contrary to people's assumption, was not this irresponsible buffoon. He expressed great concern about what Parsons and Ron Hubbard were doing in America, trying to create a moonchild. He was very unhappy with these excitable and sort of arrogant Americans with power and money getting into magic, into the arts. And so that shows that Crowley was not this sort of like, this firebrand of the occult. He was measured. See, a lot of the things to do with Crowley that people go, ooh, evil man. He was creating a magical charge based on his reputation, and he'd been doing it for many years. In his early mountain climbing stages, he claims that he survived an expedition in the Himalayas where some of the climbers were killed. He claimed he survived by shooting his Sherpas and eating them. Now, of course, he didn't shoot the Sherpas and eat them, but that makes great headlines. That makes a great charge. That makes a great energetic vibe that shoots around the world. And this is why he sought out all kinds of publicity, good publicity, bad publicity. It all added to the charge. Very, very important stuff, this. You must learn to understand that. He was using a bardic type approach of the satire. I told you last week, satire is a very, very bardic magic. Very, very, very powerful. It's very powerful. And so he was doing elements of magic that was like that. I also believe the Grant Morrison and Alan Moore quote unquote feud is the same thing. The two guys are not actually at war with each other. They're doing the Oasis, Blur, Beatles, Rolling Stones, Man United, Liverpool, AC Milan, Inter Milan, Barca, Real Madrid duality hype in order to create a charge which will bring supporters to either side. Very clever. Coke, Pepsi, you name it. Goes on and on. Burger King, McDonald's. A charge is created by this. So it's often a willing rivalry rather than an actual real rivalry. It serves both sides. Donny Osmond and, God bless him, David Cassidy. To bring it down to something trite. It's been going on forever, and it always will. Now, I want to read a passage, a short section from my upcoming book, The Druid Code, which I'm sure you will all enjoy very much. I'm going to do with mythology and ancient history what I did with the issue of psychopathy, bring it to a better understanding to a wider audience. And I just finished a segment the other day which I'm talking about a subject which shows the power of magic, the power of magic to survive so long, The analogy I gave was, if you have a still swimming pool, if you even drop a small pebble in the middle, those ripples will eventually get to the edge. If you throw a large boulder in, all you're doing is creating a more powerful charge of more instant results. But it matters not whether it's the pebble or whether it's the boulder. The ripples created by both will still eventually reach the edge of the pool. And that's the charge. So even if you think you flopped at first, give it time, because magic has a way of unfolding within itself and growing as an unseen incorporeal force that manifests eventually in reality, and in very, very poetic and uh, theatrical ways. And I'll give you an example of that. And this is from a passage from my upcoming book, The Druid Code. Generally, it is forgotten that the story of Ragnarok is, in actuality, a powerful restoration myth, albeit one that comes with a price, that price being the loss of certain magical powerful crafts and abilities, which were once the exclusive possession of the pre-Ragnarok races and beings. The mayhem and destruction is not the final outcome by any means. Life and even the gods and goddesses, in somewhat lesser forms, begin again. It is their magic, crafts, and supernatural powers that is lost temporarily, or at least no longer mentioned or takes second place as being central to the Nordic mythological identity. A similar motif appears within the telling of the Irish mythological classic The Children of Lear, when the old world of magic and supernatural are slowly tormented into oblivion by 900 years of a cruel watery fate, as the result of a wicked curse which ends in an Ireland where the old heathen ways and magical places have vanished into the stuff of lore. This is an idea which is common in many magical traditions, the concept of making corporeal and incorporeal sacrifices in order to exchange one set of powers for another. A votive hoard being a good example of a ritual burial of gold and other treasures so as to acquire the blessings of the gods. This can also extend to spiritual, cultural, and even psychological sacrifices to the gods in the guise of an older way of living and worship being buried within the culture of a society as a kind of votive hoard of the subconscious mind of the tribe. In many ways, this is the most powerful votive hoard of all, as it exists not buried in an obscure field somewhere, but rather it is buried or charged into the psyche of every member of the tribe, waiting to be restored within the collective consciousness. In 1896, the brighter hoard was found in a field adjacent to Lochfoyle in County Derry, Ireland, which included the ritual burial of a delicate golden boat as a gift to the Irish and Manx sea god MacMananan MacLear. The initial finding of the brighter hoard resulted in a major diplomatic to and fro between Dublin and London as to which of their respective national museums would keep this stunningly beautiful artefact. In the end, Dublin won, and the brighter hoard now sits in the National Museum of Ireland. However, it was the sensation and diplomatic tensions surrounding the ownership of the golden boat, creating something of a psychic charge, which unearthed the most powerful treasure of all, the return to the public consciousness of an old pre-Christian god. The brighter hoard had performed its main task when the Druids buried it on the shores of Lochfoyle thousands of years ago. MacMananan MacLear was once again the pagan sea god of the Gaels. Today, a large sculpture of MacMananan MacLear, along with his magical boat controlled by his thoughts, which guide the god between this world and the other world, now sit atop of Benevena Mountain, looking down on both Lochfoyle and also across the sea to the west of Scotland. At one point in 2015, the statue had been removed from its plinth and hurled off the side of a mountain by fanatical Christians. The damage was minimal. Even so, it demonstrated to remind us all how Christianity actually became a force in the heathen world as a violent and vindictive crusade against indigenous Europeans. During 2016, the statue of MacManaman MacLear was featured in many photographs silhouetted against the aurora borealis. The votive horde within the Irish psyche had been restored as a living and popular pagan god once again, sailing his magical boat between this world and the other world. Both the story of Ragnarok and the Children of Lear have two very significant commonalities: the transition or traumatic transformation of one version of reality into another by acts of fate and or wickedness, ultimately involving unleashing of the power of water along with temporary submergence. And that is just a little bit from my upcoming book to give you an idea and to bring us a, should we say, a segue into tonight's show. Now, the story there was of a golden boat that was buried thousands of years ago on a beach next to Lough Foyle, which is associated with Macmannon and Lear in County Derry. And it's staying there until it was found over 100 years ago. When the boat was pulled up, it was removed at around the same time the Gaelic League in Ireland, and people like Lady Gregory were starting to rediscover the ancient Irish mythology. Its discovery could not have been at a more perfect time. And when it was unleashed, the old gods were coming back. So the boat was not buried so much as a sacrifice to the god in terms of, we give you this golden boat so you may give us blessings and sailings across the sea. It was almost like a charge that was put in the ground saying, no matter what happens, if the world changes, if Ireland changes, if religion changes, you will come back and continue to sail your magical boat in the consciousness of the Irish people between this world and the other world. And literally in the last few weeks, because of the good, excellent aurora borealis we've had in Ireland, the Northern Lights, there has been no end of photographers going up on Benevenant Mountain and taking a photograph of the god Macmannon Man Lear in his magical boat, the statue of him, against the other world, the forces of the cosmos in the sky. This is magic. This is the theatre and the poetry of magic. This is how powerful it is. The spells will always work. They may not work when you want them to work, but the pebble is still dropped into the water and the spell will work. So a handful of druids burying a golden boat transcended the Roman Empire, the Babylonian Empire, and the British Empire, and the Catholic Church, and the Protestant Church, and the old pagan sea god of the Gaels and the Manx sailed once again, thousands of years later. Just listen to the poetry of that idea. Just let that sink into you. And that's where we're going to begin our practice, or should we say our basic training for embarking upon the study and the practice of ritual magic. Your mind has to be in the right place, and that's why Gardner and Crowley came up with Wicca, because they knew exactly as how Wicca has turned out. It's full of middle-aged, angry divorcees casting lemon spells that don't work upon their ex-husbands and boyfriends for dumping them. And you just have to look at Wicca and it's filled with stereotypes. In fact, Wicca in America was very heavily embraced by the feminist movement, which is another, shall we say, black magic or diversionary magic. And so Crowley and Gardner's fabricated story of seeing the pagans dancing in the New Forest was a great idea, because could you imagine if these people, with all their vindictiveness and hate, got their hands on real magic? And that's why we have to be in the best mental, emotional, and psychological state that we possibly can before we embark upon the practice of ritual magic. There is a cleansing, or like I mentioned in the passage from the book, a submergence. We have to submerge yourself in the waters in the calm waters, in the cleansing waters of our own consciousness, get there. Now, the first thing I would say to people to do is to do a self-critical analysis of yourself. Get out a journal or a piece of paper. You don't have to show anybody this. This is between yourself and your psyche. And write down all the things you've ever done that you think were bad, or you feel guilty about, or you feel you have not made proper amends to the other people, or to yourself, or to society about. Admit them. Don't hide them. Admit them. Remember, the shadow is our friend in these situations. The shadow must be brought to the surface as gently as possible. That's why it's been so heavily written into folklore and mythology. And this is your own folklore and mythology you're about to embark on. So you must clear that out. You must accept your faults, your failings, and process them. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. I'm just saying this is what you have to do. This is the first step. You've got to deal with your own shit. Because if you don't, your own shit will deal with you. And the last place you need your own shit to deal with you is while you're in the magic circle. And I'm using that term metaphorically. The next thing you need to do is to start to develop a magical way of living. Now, a very good and easy way to do that is to keep a dream diary or a dream journal. I've been saying to this ever since I came on the scene years ago. I've been telling you to create dream diaries and dream journals, but do not wake up in the morning. Do not wake up in the morning and suddenly start analyzing your dreams. Just write them down. Just write them down and build up a book. And in 6 months or a year down the road, read the book. And you will realize that there are no such things as coincidences, and there's no such things as happenstances that happen by themselves. That you live in a world of magic. Now, as you're doing this, become aware of the poetry of magic. Like that story of the golden boat, that's a good insight into the poetry of life. You will begin to see the world in terms of metaphors and allegories and poetry and theatrical expressions of the will to a remarkably surprising degree. The 1111 number thing a few years ago was part of that. People were seeing 1111 everywhere. Oh, that's mainly stopped now. That number had a great significance. 11 is a very powerful number because it represents things unseen. You can't resolve the number 11 mathematically in too many ways. So the number 11 is almost like the shadow of the fourth dimension. It hints at something beyond this reality. It's there in this reality, but we're not getting a clear picture of it. But we're seeing its shadow or hearing its echo enough to know that it exists. And that's why 1111 was appearing everywhere. If people were noticing it because they were being reminded by their subconscious that there was more to this than the reality that they currently experience. It was almost as if it was a credit calling card given to you by the universe saying, check this out. Or a flyer, check this out. Mad, isn't it? The 1111 keeps appearing. Here, read this pamphlet. That's what that was going on there. That's what was happening there. You were given an invitation. The next process you have to embark on is to go with your intuition in every single case. Remember, your intuition does not lie to you. Your intuition does not fail you. So the first thing that you have, when you hear something or are told about something, a plan, an idea, or you meet a person, go with your first instinct. You will find that magical experiences rapidly unfold after that because you're developing an honest dialogue with your subconscious. You're not saying to your subconscious, shut up, I don't like you, shut up, stop trying to influence me. Remember, as I said in the upcoming documentary megalithicodyssey.com, in the pilot show, I said the two things we can say for sure about the subconscious myth, the myths of the subconscious and the stones, is that neither one lies to you. Your subconscious on every level does not lie to you, and mythology does not lie to you. That's why it exists and continues to remain. It does not lie to you either. They never lie to you. So by developing a trust, a belief, a sense of security with your own subconscious, you will find that it starts to feel more comfortable with you, and insights and inspiration begin to flourish and begin to unfold with a greater frequency. Don't do things you don't like. Don't do them. It's a zero-sum game. There's no win there. Your subconscious wants to help you, but it doesn't want to be made feel like you think it's a bullshitter. It's not a bullshitter. Your ego is the bullshitter. You're the bullshitter. Your consciousness is the bullshitter. Your social mask is the bullshitter. Your intuition and your subconscious is the honest, most honest voice that you will ever hear. When you do this, when you learn to go with intuition, magic and opportunities start to happen. Now, what's happening here is you're building a muscle. You're building a muscle. You're doing two things. You're securing your psychic firewall, for starters, because you're getting a lot of bullshit out of your life. You see, a lot of the reason people don't like Crowley is because he wasn't full of, he was honest about things. He didn't hide behind the respectable mask. And a lot of magicians don't. A lot of magicians just tell you how they really feel. They have a very secure psychic firewall because their exterior wall, their moat, shall we say, is built of a solid foundation, and it's not built of social bullshit and programming. Be very direct with yourself. When the psychic fire, what happens then is your psyche can then, instead of spending its time trying to reach you, and you keep thinking it's a liar, instead of it doing that, it then knows that you're in control, or you won its trust, and it then begins to do two things. Firstly, it builds your psychic firewall to protect you from exterior damage, psychic attacks, so on. This is why I have zero tolerance for passive aggressiveness. Anyone who knows on my Facebook page, passive and aggressiveness is an immediate block. Because what a passive aggressive person is doing is they're lying on every level about their relationship, not only to you, but also to themselves and the world in general. They're not good. The passive aggressiveness is a form of psychic attack to unbalance you. And this is why I have zero tolerance for psychic attacks performed through passive aggressiveness. It's a disease in this country, Ireland. People are filled with passive. I don't care who you are, you're fucking gone. That's the end of it. To me, that is a crime, because you're not, just be fucking honest. You don't like me, tell me you don't like me. If you think I'm a fat bastard, call me a fat bastard. If you think I'm an annoying piece of shit, tell me. Do not, under any circumstances, and I'm fucking warning you this for your own personal safety, post on my Facebook page, or the truth will come out about you, ... Because the last stupid bastard who did that was a pedomaniac who ended up committing suicide after the cops found kiddie porn on his computer, and I wasn't the fucking one that put it there. That passive-aggressive attack on me was him talking about himself, and people who make passive-aggressive comments like that are the most dangerous and evil fuckers of all. And these are the black magicians who have no control over their craft. And that's why they end up fucking having, after years of claiming to be a pedophile hunter on the internet, end up with fucking kiddie porn on their fucking PC after the cops sees it. And the cops didn't put it there. They go into dark places. This is why I tell you, stay away from all these fucking pedomaniacs and these pedophile hunters on the internet. If you haven't figured out, most of them are mentally ill. You can also see there's darkness about them. And you know that you feel horrible. You know you're not feeling good being a part of this, even though you think you're saving children. You know it's fucking poison. You fucking know it does. So don't fuck with me with that, and don't fuck with yourself with that. We are talking about a serious fucking thing tonight. Passive aggressiveness is a fucking bead I'm putting on you if you demonstrate it around me. I've no time for it. It's a sign of weak psychic people, dangerous toxic people who cannot be trusted, because what's happened then, they've completely obliterated their subconscious to the point where they're just fucking flesh golems. And that's what you gotta be fucking careful about. This is not a joke we're embarking on here tonight. This is the real fucking thing. If you want to go back to sharing articles about satanic pedophiles and the flat earth, go there. Because otherwise you're not going to be able to stand up in this. This is why you cannot start ritual magic right away. There's a boot camp element to this, shall we say, basic training. And the basic training is, don't be a fucking dick to yourself or to others. Otherwise, guess what? You won't get what you're after. You'll get what you're fucking given. And I've seen it happen to motherfuckers over the years, and it is not pretty. So you gotta do your shit. You gotta own your own shit. You gotta take care of your own shit. And rather than passing passive aggressive remarks at other people, start working on yourself, because the passive aggressive remarks are a direct camouflage of your own psychic inabilities and the corruption and toxic states of your internal psyche that have not been dealt with. So instead of putting an ellipses on the end of a sentence, put a full stop and be a fucking man. The second aspect of this dealing with your own shit is very, very significant. First, it builds a psychic firewall, and then secondly, it creates psychic integration. You're no longer a bullshitter walking around in skin. You are a man or a woman. Should we say a man's man or a woman's woman? It doesn't matter. Magic is open to both sexes. It works with both sexes. It works with gay people, straight people, black people, white people, whatever religion you came from. Magic works. When you have this psychic integration, you're less likely to be bothered by politicians. There's no use going and embarking on ritual magic if you do something like you hate fucking Cameron. Fucking heaven, God, I'd kick his fucking head in. You're not in a safe position to do that. You must learn satire. You must learn to transfer those things into laughs, into funny things. Because this is the most powerful magic the average person can do on a day-to-day basis. Instead of investing your emotional energy into this, you must invest your emotional energy into transcending it. Because it's poisonous. It's absolutely poisonous. When you feel that you have achieved this, that you have a satisfactory dialogue with yourself, and you're aware of your limitations, and you shall we say, nurture your shadow to the degree where it's counterbalancing your own bullshit opinion of yourself, and your head is no longer up your own arse, you're now ready to make some real steps and some real commitments. The first part of this is learning how to use your language, and use language in such a way that you're deprogramming yourself from all the Prussian education indoctrination that you have got or been subjected to since you were a child. Now, before you even begin to make a sigil or a talisman or to issue a grimoire, you must learn to change your opinion of yourself. So, for instance, suppose you want to achieve something like, I am going to get that girl. Well, when you say, I am going to get that girl, you've really put yourself in a position where you have a Herculean task of getting your psyche to attract her. If you say it in such a way like, oh God, I wish I had her, I'd do anything to get her, you've just killed any chance of getting her. And this works for the ladies too, by the way. But if you say, she's my woman now, or he's my man, and you talk about it as if it's already been achieved, the psychic energies flow much more effectively. And you take this one step you take towards her or him or the goal that you want, you will find that if it's an honest thing now, you're not deceiving them, you will find that they're taking 2 steps towards you. Why? It's because they're essentially seeing the honesty within you. But you're only able to do it for the individual who you're directly connected with. You can't do it with society in general. And this brings us to, shall we say, the side effects of becoming a more magically inclined person. One thing that people often find quite shocking and disturbing is as their psychic energy grows, and shall we say, and that's actually expressed by a magnetic field around them, they will find that if they're sitting on a bus or a train, everybody that gets on that bus or that train will not sit beside you. Even if it's the last seat left on the train carriage or in the bus going to work or coming back from work, the plebs, the great unwashed, would rather stand than sit beside you. Some people think this is a bad or a negative thing. No, what's happening is you've created so much psychic energy around yourself that your seat beside you is filled. And they're not going to sit in a seat that's already occupied by someone, and that someone else is your subconscious. You have projected as almost an invisible tulpa your magical ability into the seat next to you. And that's why they don't sit beside you. It's not because you're creepy. It's not because they think you're weird. It's because you're producing such a psychic charge that they will not enter your space, and their own meat golem subconscious tells them not to sit beside you. It's them that's wrong, not you. You'll also notice in restaurants it's very hard to get the attention of waitresses or waiters. You think they're ignoring you. What happened is, because you're so psychically integrated, they think that you've already been fed, because you're giving off such a wide and lush and rich psychic field that they don't see a hungry person, they see someone that's fed subconsciously, but they react on the conscious level. Very interesting, isn't it? These are the kind of things you will notice. Another thing you will notice is that you will become very attractive to the opposite sex. Now, when I go to events, I'm always getting people slagging me off, and it's been like this all my life. When I was in work, I used to have a boss who moved my desk in front of his office so he could see the women in skirts who were sitting on my desk all day, wiggling their legs and talking to me. And that's because I've always had a strong psychic field. And it happens to me when I go to events, like the last AV6, well, AV7 is coming up next couple of weeks in England, so check out Ian Crane's site for that. Ian Crane says to me, walks in the building and sees me with a bunch of women, and he says, there's a surprise, Thomas Sheridan surrounded by a gang of women. It's not because I'm a ladies' man or a gigolo. None of that thing. It's just that you develop a charge that makes people feel secure. It makes them feel relaxed around you. It's not a sexual thing. It's not a romantic thing. It's none of that stuff. It's not that you're a hero or a ladies' man. You will find that there is an element about you that's very appealing. That's why you can go to a party and you'll see one girl there, and you'll see a bunch of guys around her talking to her, and she's laughing, they're all laughing with her, and you say she's not even the prettiest girl in this room, and yet all the good looking guys are hovering around her. She is the one who's most psychically integrated. She makes people feel good when she invites them or he invites them in. When it's strangers, it's the opposite. They avoid you because they think, not because anything wrong with you. Like I said, your psychic and your energetic emission is so powerful that they feel like there's 3 or 4 people in your immediate space. And you will find that life starts becoming anything but mundane. You have to open up. When you open yourself up to the supernatural opens itself up to you. When you take one step forward, into the world of magic takes two very real steps towards you. And people who say, I've been doing magic and it doesn't work for me, that's because they haven't done the basic groundwork. And I've spoken to you in the first hour of this show. We'll probably have a 2-hour show or longer than an hour show tonight. The integration is not complete. This is why the people in the so-called truth movement are all afraid of magic and think it's satanic. They're unbalanced. They live in fear of everything. New world orders, satanic pedophiles, this, that, and the other. This is what cults do. Cults make people afraid of comet clusters and judgment days and all this nonsense. Original sin. You have to be you have your soul retrieval, or you have to be cleansed of original sin. These people are not ready for this, and so they cluster in sort of like consanguous pathological groupings that does them or no one else around them any good. It becomes very, very toxic very, very fast. As you're developing and as you have developed this greater sense of self, your will become far more focused. You will find yourself doing things you would have never had the balls to do before. That's because of the psychic integration. You have a sense of security that you didn't have before. You may be able to walk up in front of a bunch of people and address them. Now, another thing that's also important is that you become aware of things that may kill you. You become aware of this very, very quickly. This is why people who do acrobatic tricks or were seriously injured, like Harry Houdini was killed in his last one, they had premonitions. Up to that point, they were fearless. They were absolutely fearless, and that's why they survived everything. And then they had a premonition that I shouldn't do the next one. That movie, The Prestige, is about this very good example of this. That you only get, you'll keep getting shots, and you'll keep hitting home runs, as the Americans say. But there will be a point where you'll have a nagging doubt, then you don't do it. Because that's the one that'll kill you. Because what you're doing now is you're rolling in the highest casinos of all now. The rewards are phenomenal, but when you crap out, you will crap out. You're playing a high stakes, high roller game here. So you learn to manage hubris. If you have great success for a while, don't expect that it's always going to continue. If you're not getting success, don't say the universe has it in for me. You're not that important. The universe doesn't give a fuck about you. It's your job to impress the universe. It's your job, forget to even impress them. It's your job to, see, that's what's happening when you develop magic. You're really getting to the universe to understand that you exist. That's what it is. The universe just sees these blobs of flesh golems on the planet, and every so often, someone who will actually get enough psychic integration, develop a correct magical pursuit in their life where the universe goes, oh, I like her. Let's work with this one. Oh, I like him. Yes, I like him. Now, that's not the universe's fault if you don't attain that standard. That's your fault for not getting there. So that's why your magic doesn't work. You haven't done the groundwork first. This is why Wiccans can't be allowed, their magic doesn't work, and they can't be allowed near magic because it's all bullshit. They would never be psychically ready to do it. Maybe they could go through Wicca, and see, that's another good thing about Wicca as well. If Wicca has one great attribute, is it allows unstable people to process their shit, that when they come out the other side, they're ready for the real thing. So it's kind of good in that way. So they can actually realize that it was a waste of time, it doesn't work, but they'll have processed enough of their shit inside it, or maybe seeing so many toxic people within it, that they'll actually come out the other side feeling ready for the real thing, or not at all. And both results are good. Both results are good. Both results are correct for you. So if dream journals, understanding the negative downsides of it, that people won't sit beside you on trains anymore. The positives, you'll be very attracted to the opposite sex. You will find yourself more confident. Another negative side of it is that if you don't process your shit, it will come up against you. That things like using passive-aggressive comments is really a demonstration of how dangerous you are to your own existence, and it's not impressing anyone. And now we're ready. So this might take a while. It depends on what kind of place you're starting from. If you're a complete mess, it might take you a couple of years. If you got your life together in a lot of ways, you're a relaxed and comfortable and happy person who enjoys a good laugh, your friends, you might get there in a few weeks. That's why it's called the art and the art and the craft of magic, because the art is that some people are more talented than others, and the craft is specific measures and instructions of the science you have to take in order to get to that point. So you don't get nothing for nothing in this universe for free, as I'm always saying. So now you're ready to move forward. Now you must ask yourself, what kind of magic would I prefer to be involved with? What would suit me in terms of how I live and what kind of person I am? So for instance, if you're a visually inclined person, and even if you're a technically inclined person, sigil magic is very, very good. Learning how to create and make sigils is a very good one for people who have a strong sense of literacy, who enjoy words, who enjoy language, who enjoy processes and systems, who enjoy the visual form and abstract thinking. Because if you're good at that stuff, you will find sigils actually make themselves. Now, the sigil is a very misunderstood thing. The purpose of the sigil is to create the purest stream charge. And that's why when I put up example, there's a video I did out there with somebody that asked me on a radio show years ago what was sigils. And I put some examples, videos on the video of what sigils looks like. They were not proper sigils. They were overly complicated. That's why in the How to Catch a Demon video that I made, I didn't show you the sigil. These sigils you have to tidy down into the most narrow space because you're creating the purest stream. Now, you all know, I'm not going to go into how you make sigils, but Grant Morrison has a pretty good introductory video on it. Very simple, basic forms. But if you enjoy making shapes, if you enjoy writing and drawing, this can be your very, very powerful form of magic. Very, very powerful. Because what it allows you to do is, it allows you to enjoy your craft, your passion. So it's basically a passion, so you will find it much easier. Much easier. That's a very good way of getting in. Another way of getting in is the idea of visualization. Some people have very good imaginations. Some people have a very good focus. This would be a good one for like business people or people who are involved in high processes of high complexity. You basically have to narrow down that complexity to create the purest stream. So a good one for that would be the idea of visualizing things. You will, say, follow the system of creating a portal or a symbol. So suppose you create a symbol, a logo of yourself, you pour your concentration into it, then you look at a wall and you project it onto the wall in your mind's eye until it actually starts to appear. This takes a lot of hard work, but it does work eventually. Then make the symbol as big as yourself and imagine yourself walking through it into other worlds. This is a way of having a kind of a psychedelic experience without having to use ayahuasca. Ayahuasca and LSD, all they do is they jump you through into the magical dimensions without the need for going through the ritual magic theory as practiced. Enochian magic is actually very good for this, although get a modern book on Enochian magic. I'm not going to recommend any titles because this is a very personal thing. The book that go to a bookshop, don't go online. Go to a hard bricks and mortar bookshop and look at books and pick them up. And the one that feels right, take it home, read it, but don't jump right into the spells or anything like that, or the sigil making or the talismanic making right away. Understand that it's something that you need to practice again and again and again. And using language, like I said, is a very important manner of doing it. You have to completely transform your thinking. So you have to get rid of words out of your vocabulary like, I wish I could do this, or phrases like, oh, you can't beat the government, or the New World Order is not going to take me down. You act like the New World Order doesn't even exist. This is why voting is so bad for you. This is why I think because you're putting your hopes on following a football team and wanting them to win. And then when they don't win or your sports hero doesn't win, you fall to bits. Because they deliberately do this. You also don't, getting with your TV is very, very important. I've been saying that for years because you've been bombarded with sigils non-stop on that thing. How can you develop a psychic integration? Go online and watch it on watch stuff that doesn't have adverts. That's where it's really, but you'll also notice it everywhere. See, if the alternative truth movement was good for anything, it gave people a better sense of vision, and it made them symbolically and symbology literate. But of course, like so many things in that movement, it went overboard too much. When you understand how magic works, then you understand how magic is being used against you. Frighteningly so at times. You start to see everything in a different point of view, everything from marketing to history, everything from a very, very different point of view, and you see the power of it. And you see how most of the human race is under the same spell. Not our fault. It's just that that's the way of the world, and this spell is eternal in many ways. Remember, this is the thing you have to remember about a spell. There's two things to remember about a spell. The worst thing you can do with a spell is to leave it unfinished, because that's almost like mixing a bomb from dangerous chemicals. Putting all the chemicals into the vial or into the test tube or into the flask or the beaker, and then not putting it into the bomb, because the actual thing that affords protection there is the bomb. So you make the explosives. If you don't put them into the bomb, you have no way of controlling it. They're unstable, so they can blow up in the laboratory. You have to get the explosives into the bomb. That way you can have a detonator or a timer, or you can have an airplane to drop it out of, or whatever. But the part where it becomes safe is the part where you finalize it. When you open a spell, you have to close the spell. You have to completely finish it. Otherwise, it remains eternal. You see, it's charged from the beginning. It's explosive from the point of its initial creation. But because you haven't closed it, you have no control over its destiny. So therefore, you can't use it to target something. You can't. And we're talking about will now, remember, in psychology. You can't use it to target something, but it can actually target you. It can actually blow up, and you'll find yourself what they call friendly fire of your own craft. So you must complete it. And that's why sigil magic is good, because you basically complete it very, very quickly. Whereas you do the things that I do, like you go out and you try and capture entities. Well, that's incredibly powerful and rewarding, because then I can use those entities to attack people who've attacked me. So for instance, the entity can be used as a bouncer or a bodyguard of me in the astral planes or the psychic domains. Something I'm not afraid to do if someone pisses me off enough and picks on me for no reason. The video I made, How I Captured a Demon, we came to the conclusion after discussing with some people who are knowledgeable of these things that I probably captured some form of nature spirit. And so what I'd done was kind of cruel. I wasn't trying to capture nature spirit, I was trying to capture a jinn inside this house where I know there's a jinn. I didn't capture it, I captured some kind of nature spirit instead, which I released and returned it back to the wild. Asked for forgiveness, burnt the sigil, and everything was cool. But if someone was trying to just capture a nature spirit and accidentally captured a demon or a jinn and don't know what to do with it, you can't just bring the jar back and remove it. There are processes that are just as scientific with the removal of the object as there is with the capturing and retention. You open and close the spell the same way. And this opening and closing thing is in all kinds of magic. The TV news opens with the terrifying music and the serious, terrible story, and closes with the happy-go-lucky or the sports stories. The process is opened and it's closed. Richard Wagner, the German composer, was if he wasn't a magician, he was probably the greatest instinctual magician that ever lived. He was the first one to use the concept of an overture and a finale in a visual presentation using stage lighting. He was the first one to come up with the idea that characters on the stage would have their own theme tunes. So when they entered onto the stage, they had a theme tune. He used lighting effects to show dark and shadow by projecting light on either side of the faces, and how stage sets were composed. And he was also, as you know, very much into things like Germanic mythology, which he knows mythology is the anvil of the psyche, of the greatest anvil of the psyche, because it transforms a person into a receptacle of their archetypal racial consciousness and tribal consciousness, unleashing it and bringing it to the surface. Wagner created the idea of the spell opening, the overture, and the visual now, the spell processing with the themes for the individual performers, the change of lighting, and then finally the closing of the spell with the finale. So you have all kinds of things. You have the opening, the theme tune of the start of a show, a TV show, and the end of the show. These are all spells, and this is how you start to see the world. Everything is a spell. Everything is a spell. You look at the way the royals in England do this. They get onto they'd have the rituals of the royal opening of Parliament, the knock on the door. That's the opening, and then he gets the keys, and then the closing of the spell. You cannot leave the spell open. So if you are going to set about a task in terms of a spell, now remember I said last week, you can't just go abracadabra, alakazam, and get a girl, or get money, or get the house or the job you want. You have to develop the scientific process to do it. And along the way, it's all good, because you're developing energies that will be useful for all kinds of things if you don't get it. But if your initial target was, say, to, I don't know, procure a house or a certain lifestyle, and then halfway through it you shift focus and forgot all about that, you will find that because you did not close it, that it will come back to haunt you. So for an example was, say you worked in some place and you wanted to get a job in another company, right? And then you pursued the other company and worked your spells and performed your rituals to get into it. And then suddenly your boss or your existing company says to you, oh, we'll double your salary, and we'll give you 1 day off a week, and your dream comes true. But you've already invested all this energy into the process of moving to this other company. What you will find is that something that you were doing to go somewhere else, because you didn't close it, will come back to haunt you. Your boss will talk to the boss and say, you know that guy Jimmy that works for you that you just gave the salary to? You know, he was begging me and trying everything to get a job at our company, and almost gave it to him, and then the fucker decided to stay with you. And the boss goes, he did now? Really? Was he doing that? He was seeing, that's a classic example of the spell not being closed. You have to be honest with the other employer and say, your boss, and say, well, the thing is, I'm working on another job somewhere else. I hope you don't have a problem with that. I'm willing to stop that now and continue working here. That's closing the spell. And also contacting the company that you were trying to lobby for a job with and saying, I'm afraid that what happened was my main boss has come around and given me basically the same salary and benefits package that I wanted from you guys, and it's a huge improvement. And so thank you for everything. Shake hands, walk on, and any help you need in finding a guy, someone else, let me know. You've closed the spell. Well, magic works the same way. It's all about good relationships with the consciousness, good relations with the psyche, and good relations with the universe. It's all about being honest and direct. Now, this honesty and directness also brings you to very dangerous places. Again, I said we're playing at the high stakes casino here. The rabbis who created the golem did not visualize or channel or meditate the words that they needed to put on the scroll to bring the golem to life, because they know the demons are out there lying and waiting to tell you who they are. But one thing a demon cannot do is to lie to you in a visual form and to make them appear. And this is the most powerful magic of all, because once you've got them, you have to force them to appear. They can no longer hide. They can no longer enter your mind as thoughts. They can no longer be a rustle in the hedgerow, like I said in the Led Zeppelin song. You have them directly. It's almost like you put a rope around them and you force them to do it. This requires very powerful magical spells that have to be done under certain conditions. The Abamelem is one of them. This allows you, and the Talmudic magic allows you to grab the demons such as Astaroth, bring him into this domain, and Astaroth will give you the term of the word to bring the golem to life. But remember, that's dangerous bullshit. You've got to be a really good Orthodox rabbi or a very good Kabbalist to do this. You can't just do it. This takes years of study. Now, I saw something the other day that makes, see, this is the problem with people and magic. They brought a page out of the Babylonian Talmud, which showed what Orthodox Jews think of the Jesus Christ and Christians. You have to understand, and they talk about Jesus boiling for a million years in a vat of excrement, and the Virgin Mary being a whore. You have to understand that's not racism or that's not bigotry. That's satires. That's satires. This allows them to focus on the task at hand, and that's why you have these things in honest religions, I might add. The ones that hide behind peace, love, and light, and I love you, are the dangerous ones. The ones that say to you, don't trust me because I might be your best friend or your worst enemy. Only learn to work with me until you've learned to trust me, and then decide if I'm your best friend or not. Because along the way, I'm going to put you through some shit. They're the ones you trust. They are the ones you go with. The ones who say, everything's going to be fine. I'm going to look after you. You're amongst friends here. That's the black magic. That's the black magic. And now I want to go on to sex magic. Now, sex magic is very trending, shall we say, among the New Age types, and it's going to end in an absolute catastrophe. Now, what sex magic is that it uses the charge of the moment of orgasm to focus the will. The idea being that at the point of orgasm, the charge that's released by the male is grounded by the female, and both produce what's called a magical child. The magical child, in terms of the charge, is held inside the female, but it's emitted by the male. So therefore, males who are circumcised can't perform decent sex magic. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. It's not their fault. They were fucking attacked as babies. And this is why the Abrahamic religions practice circumcision. It's for that reason. Two reasons. One, they want the magic focused in a different way. For instance, even though Orthodox rabbis are circumcised, they're very good at magic because they use their minds as a sort of a penis substitute. So yes, guys who are circumcised can use it that way, but sex magic is, well, let's just say it's a kind of a crude version of magic. Even though it does have results, you better know what you're doing, and you're doing it with the right person. You see, all the nerve fibers on the end of a man's foreskin literally fires the energetic charge at the moment of ejaculation and orgasm. It fires a charge, just like those nerve endings, they just end in the foreskin. And the woman receives that charge and then is pregnant with the quote-unquote magical child. Now, this is very important that you listen to this. All these New Agers are saying, these stupid New Age flakes are saying things like, all you have to do is have sex with someone and wish for money and you will get it. Well, you don't wish for crude things like money in your account when you're performing sex magic, because that's basically a black magic. You get money by earning it, not by wishing it. When, like I said last week with the lotto, right, if you get money for nothing, it's dark money. If you want something with sex magic, it's usually make sure you're doing it with someone who you love and they love you, someone you respect and they respect you. You don't have to be madly in love with them or anything. You just have to have a common security of your relationship, care for one another, and a genuine notion about what you are doing. It's incredibly wrong for a man to perform a sex magic ritual on a woman he hasn't told it to, and he's doing it in his head. And the same for a female, because basically you're lying to the people and it won't work, or it will backfire in a terrible way. In a terrible way. So if you wanted something like $1 million, you might get it, but then you might be sued for 2 million. Or you can drive people insane. Sex magic seems to, when people who are not fully have done the work, like I told you at the beginning of this show, when they do it, a lot of them will go bonkers. It can destroy relationships forever. It can destroy people's relationships with other people forever, and it can lead to very strange behaviors. I had a friend who was a chaos magician who got involved in a kind of an extreme form of sex magic that was practically sadomasochistic, and the idea was to produce not only the sexual charge at the time. This is in America now. The sexual charge at the time. I was actually involved in some interesting circles when I was in the music business, so you kind of meet interesting people. These are nice people. They weren't evil or anything. It's just that this is what they were into. And he told me that part of the ritual is the surprise. So during a moment of orgasm, you might cut somebody. No, I mean, not viciously cut them, scratch them on their face or bite them really hard, or nearly pull the hair out their head. Or one I heard, which is kind of funny, is that while it was happening, the girl he was doing it with ran the vibrator into his ass to shock him. And then he said, "My God, did he release a charge of psychic energy? Not only the sexual release of the charge of psychic energy, but the shock of having this thing rammed in his ass at that moment." Which sounds funny, but it shows that the woman he was doing it with knew exactly what she was doing. She was very much an ardent magician. See, a lot of magic will be suffering as well. It'll be exposing yourself to pain. This is why the Catholic Church, they have people do things like flagellants to focus the will of the extreme. That's why the church hasn't banned flagellants and hasn't banned those guys in the Philippines who nailed themselves to a cross on Easter Sunday. They don't ban these things. Now that extraction of energy when she shoved the vibrator up his ass while they were having sex on the point of orgasm, that's an instinctual impulse in people too. In fact, all magic is an instinctual impulse in people. During the First World War on the Western Front, men who were not even Catholics would look for holy medals of Catholic troops, believing that they were talismans to make them immune to bullets. So they would, even if they were Jewish or Protestants, they were holding holy medals, St. Christopher's medals, crucifixes, anything they could find to give them this totemistic protection. Whether it worked or not, it's hard to say, but it shows you that that was an instinctual drive. That it must have worked for somebody. There was a famous story in World War II of a pilot who flew a plane. Don't ask me the name. I saw a documentary about it. It wasn't a documentary about magic. It was a documentary about Mustang pilots, P-51 Mustang pilots in Germany towards the end of the war. This guy flew. The pilots would not fly another pilot's plane. They were, because they felt it was unlucky. This is magic as well, instinctual magic. And this one pilot had flown this P-51 Mustang into several combat situations, and one day became sick with the flu, and another experienced pilot had taken over his plane, and the plane was shot to bits during a mission but still made it back to base. And he said he watched a plane that he had flown through much more dangerous battles crash on the runway because he couldn't get the undercarriage, or only one of the undercarriage wheels came down. The plane spun out of control, and the poor pilot had the whole skin burnt off his face, and he died, but he was still alive when he was being taken from the plane. And as he passed the pilot, he said he looked at him, and all he could see was a skull with two eyeballs in it and the mouth hanging open, as if to look at him and say, I messed with the magic. I should not have gotten that plane. They were very specific about the number. This is why they painted girlies like Enola Gay on the front of bombers. These were sigils. These were talismans. This is magic. This is the idea that they can do these things. They provide protection. In another age, it would have been the Virgin Mary. This is why they would also have the amount of fighter pilots would put little stickers on the side of the plane of the amount of other pilots they'd shot down. So they'd have like 10 swastikas, that was 10 planes they shot down, that was 10 magical symbols. Each time that was done, the plane was charged, the pilot was charged, and there was a belief, and it often worked, that they were invincible, that they would never be killed. And believe me, it would often work, for the simple reason that what Colin Wilson calls the robot would take over, and they would be incredibly proficient in flight. And this is all the magic is, creating that virtuosity, that proficiency that allows them to be so sublime at their craft, no matter what it is, playing a sport or flying a P-51 Mustang in World War II. The same thing as charge, and that's the idea of the charge. Now, I will tell people to stay well away from sex magic unless they've fulfilled the criteria that I've spoken. Read up on it by popular and well-known and respected authors. Now, this idea of instinctual magic, we can take it a little further. I spoke about World War One there. There was the idea that when somebody was dying on the battlefield, in Dion Fortune's book on psychic attacks, many of them soldiers who were locked up with psychiatric disorders after World War One had had sex with dying comrades in the belief that if they captured the dying comrade through sodomy on the battlefield, that they would attain immortality themselves because they'd have more than one soul inside them. And this actually does seem to have happened, that if there was a soldier dying on the field, they would perform sodomy on the corpse. Now, I told you magic was dark, so deal with it. It's not all, Harry Potter. While I was having sex with the corpse, the life force would be transferred into them. So if they were killed, there was another life force inside them that would not be killed. And therefore, essentially, they were immortal. When these guys survived and came back from the war, they were put in psychiatric hospitals because they would have several life forces fighting inside them, all performing psychic attacks upon themselves. Read about that in Dion Fortune's book, Psychic Attacks, where it's well documented. And it's a pretty good book to read as a primer before you start invoking or embarking, well, you will be invoking, on ritual magic. There's other things like sympathetic magic. You must be careful, or the idea of, like, this one in the Islamic world where people cut their hair, they collect up every piece of hair they have because they believe that if someone can get that hair, they could do danger to them. And that's absolutely true. If they can get something of your life force, this is why you women especially should not be promiscuous. Don't be having promiscuous sex with any man you will find, because what happens is you end up a little bit like those soldiers who had sex with the dead bodies and have numerous life force in them. That when the sperm passes through the cervix, the male DNA eventually ends up in the brain. And this is why a lot of these feminists are all crazy, and a lot of these women who call themselves psychopaths, these are punters. These were extremely promiscuous women, and they've got the DNA of all the men they ever fucked in their brain, and so therefore they're they'll never be right, and they've got a hatred and a war against men. These would be the ones who are involved in making serial false accusations against innocent men, or would have serious rape lies they would make up against innocent men, because it's almost like the entities inside their brain that develop from all this promiscuity want more energy. And if they don't get it, they start to age, or they lose their looks, or a man doesn't want to have sex with them. The entities inside them cause them to lash out and make these false accusations. This does not mean that they're innocent of what they've done. I'm just saying this is probably what caused it. This is why you should never be promiscuous, male or females, but especially females. Remember, you are a receptacle at the end of the day. This is why witches didn't have men at all. This is why they would like use broom poles. A witch's broom was a dildo. That's what they used. The witch's broom was used for sex. They used to put certain herbs and hallucinogenic substances on the broom and ride the broom. And this was the witches traveling. And those hallucinogenic substances used to perform incredible magical experiences for these women, particularly in places like Germany and Switzerland and the Balkans. That's what the witches wanted. When they went flying on their broomstick, what they did was they went flying through psychedelic substances and entering their body through their vagina at the moment they were invoking orgasms by rubbing the broom up and down between their legs, riding or flying on the broom. This also resulted in communication with entities, and that brings us to the next thing of scrying. Now, scrying can be your worst friend or your best friend. It works. Scrying works very, very easily. It happens right away. You will see something in there. What it is, if it's your consciousness or whatever, but if it's not that, it could be, shall we say, an entity. And this is why I'm against channeling and Ouija boards, for the same reason, because the demon liars will tell you anything you want to hear. That's your Auntie Mary, your Uncle Jack, or it's you as an alien super god living in the future and giving you a false religion, because they're liars and you've no control over the situation. You see, when you say you watch TV, right, you have no control over the programming on that show. If BBC or ABC in America or CBS in Canada or whatever it's called, or other RT in Ireland, or any TV5 in France, you are being programmed by a list of programs. You cannot change the program on the screen. You are subject to it. Well, the same thing applies with scrying and also contacting entities through Ouija boards and so on, or channeling, is that you're totally at their mercy of their program. You have no control over what's going on the other side, because unlike, say, the Golden Dawn, who focus on a symbol and create a portal and enter the magical world, you're not in their world. You're still in this one, and you're getting their TV network broadcast to you, and they will lie to you constantly. The only way you can literally control them is to do what the Talmudic rabbis would do, Orthodox rabbis, using the Kabbalah to harness the demon in this reality, hold it a prisoner while you're inside the magic circle, pull it into the circle and get it to almost confess. When it confesses, then you release it. That's when you get the real information. So all these fools who are on the ayahuasca and saying, the this and that told me this, that, and the other, well, they were probably 99% of the time being lied to. In fact, the old ayahuasca priests are the ones who will they're real ayahuasca practitioners and priest-shaman. They will tell you not to listen to the voices. They will tell you not to obey what they say you. It's all these like spotty nerds who make ayahuasca on this part of the world and tell them, oh yeah, you spoke to this, that, and the other. Don't. And ayahuasca is healing as long as and interesting as long as you do not believe what you're being told by the ones on the other side. They'll tell you anything you want to hear. And back to the sigil magic again. The sigil magic is the easiest to learn. It can be the most rewarding. Now the thing with the sigil is you don't make them every 5 minutes. It won't work at all. You mean you're not baking batches of cookies here? You're baking the cake. You're baking, you know, the centerpiece cake at a wedding or at a banquet. You're not baking cookies here. You've got to get this right, and that requires work, practice, devotion, education, and knowledge, and also an element of, shall we say, psychic relaxation, so the will takes over. So when you're making a sigil saying, I better get all this done, this better happen for me, it's not going to work. You've got to be determined, I am getting this, I have it already, it belongs to me. And that's why I say, if you're making a sigil, make it very artistic. And when I say that, I mean, use a pen that's special to you. A quill, an ink and quill is fantastic for making sigils. Or burn something in a sacrifice, and say, like, something you don't want or you hate, or something that you're trying to escape, burn it and collect its ashes and create the sigil on a surface using its ash. Again, very powerful. This is what all these cave paintings and this hunting magic was of our ancestors. They were building new realities through their will. You see, before human beings had anything, we had will. You understand? When you have the will is the base you're building on, right? So the first thing humans ever created was art. The first thing that human beings created that was not a product of the natural world was art. And that's why art is so intrinsic to magic. They create, but the initial drive to create that art was will, the will to do it. And then the will took over to produce these phenomenal cave paintings in Lascaux and places like that. Will, art, see, it's an artistic process, but it's an artistic process that requires a scientific methodology. Now, I'll read you something from a magic book that I have. Now, I'll read it to you to show you how difficult it is, but pay attention to the language. One of the reasons I like and I'm drawn to the ancient magic of, say, Egypt and Greece especially, is that their magic and the language they use is very useful for understanding the ancient consciousness of people and how different they were. This transference or readjustment of our 20th century Western consciousness into Hermetic magic or earlier Egyptian or Greek magic allows you to switch off the interruptions, should we say, the overcoat of Western thinking, and pushes you into their world. Not necessarily because their world is better, but because of the act of doing this, you're going to use a certain amount of will. Now, this spell is called the Preliminary Invocation of the Boneless Rite of the Headless One. It was originally published in a fragment of Greco-Roman work upon magic from a papyrus in the British Museum. That's how long magic has been around. That was edited and published by the Cambridge Antiquarian Society and was translated by someone called Charles Wycliffe Goodwin in 1852. Translation has two main components, of which the first is an examination of the ancient form of the ritual, and it's called the Stele of Gede Hieroglyphist. It addresses the language and the origins, and also several rites in Greek and Demotic papyri that possess similar characteristics and similar terms. So you have Greek and Egyptian magic is very similar. And you'll find this, that Western magic is also very similar. Magic is a universal language. This is why Colin Wilson went about trying to make the Necronomicon a real book. Those who say the Necronomicon is a fraudulent or a fake book of magic, it's no longer relevant. It is a real book of magic now, simply because of the charge that's been placed into it that has taken on a life of its own. The Necronomicon is real because it's been made real by the will of people who've read H.P. Lovecraft books, and also been made real by people who have a desire to want it to be real. This is all will. Within this boneless rite, or the preliminary invocation,
You always have to have an initial analysis of the ritual before you go into it. So you need to know the history of the rituals, how it came in modern times, how people like Crowley and others used it in relation to systems like the Abba Melem and other Kabbalistic schemes that Crowley had reconstructed in Thelema and so on. And also Kundalini and sex magic. If you want to understand how this ritual works and also why studying magic and rituals is important, is you read it more or less as how it's presented, directly translated from the original papyri. It doesn't matter if you're doing it in English or French or German or any other language. What you're doing is it's not the language, the original ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs that it was created in that matters. It's your will that's created by the text translated. So it doesn't matter what language is. Magic is a universal subtext that exists as below all other narratives, dialogues, and vernacular. It is the subtext of the consciousness of the psyche. I'm going to read the spell out now. We may hear the weird sound effects that appear on these things, but I'm just going to read you the preliminary rite of the boneless one, or the headless one. And this is, again, would be delivered in a dramatic way. Now I'm holding my fingers, 2 fingers, while I do this, 2 fingers held across behind my back in order to protect myself, because I am not in the magic circle, so therefore I am not actually performing this. I'm reading you the rite on the radio. Thee I invoke, the boneless one. Thee that this create the earth and the heavens. Thee that this create night and the day. Thee that this create the darkness and the light. Thou art Ra-Hor-Kuath, whom no man hath seen at any time. Thou art Ea Besit. Thou art Ia Apostasis. Thou hast distinguished between just and unjust. Thou didst make the female and the male. Thou didst produce the seeds and the fruit. Thou didst from men to love one another and to hate one another. Now, I did not read that exactly right on purpose because I do not want to invoke the boneless one. The boneless one is the spirit, or the headless one, the formless shape. We're talking about basically an entity here. I did not pronounce the Egyptian part correctly for the simple reason that I did not invoke this, because I'm not doing a ritual here. I am reading you a magical spell. Now, before you do this, you would meditate upon the spell, no matter what magic book you get it from. It doesn't matter. Hayden Press are a small group in England that have very good books on magic. They're very good introductions. They're very good, small, easy ways to get into it. And their website is www.haydenpress.com. They're almost like shall we say, I won't say magic for dummies, but they have primers that are very good, that deal with specific individual spells and that kind of thing. They do explain them in simple language, and they're small books. Highly recommended if you do not want to dive into a large magical text. Also, I would like to say, if you're buying magic books, do not, under any circumstances, buy second-hand ones. Now, there are purification rituals, and you can do them if you're shall we say, an adept magus, like you have a long, many years study into ritual magic. Then you can protect yourself. There are cleansing rituals. Otherwise, there are charges and spells and sigils that have been created in the books that you will, shall we say, inadvertently tap into. Sometimes some magicians create almost like a self-destruct spell in invisible ink inside old books, old first-hand magic books, because they believe that if someone else gets the book that they have, that the spell will be killed. So, for example, I'll give you an example, bring us back to the MacMannon and MacLear boat at the beginning. If the, one of the person who was not a druid who dug the hole and buried the brighter hoard would probably have been killed. So not to tell anybody. The reason for this is if somebody found the boat and melted it down because they spoke while they were drunk, well then that hoard would have been discovered and the spell would not have manifested in 1886 or whatever, when it finally did and brought the old druidic gods back. The same thing is done with second-hand magic books. Often they will write things in the margins or invisible ink that will actually make sure that no ritual that they've closed is half opened again by some moron who comes along later. So out of respect for the previous magician and out of respect for yourself, by all means collect these books, but do not do rituals directly from them. If anything, you must create your own book of magic and your own book of spells. So that's tonight's show. I've spoken as a follow-up to the first show. I've spoken about the poetic theatricality of magic and how it unfolds, the necessity of a psychic and a spiritual and a psychological clean slate before you enter into this world. I've stressed the need for constant protection of oneself and not to use this to harm others. Unless you're using it to repel, then you've done no harm. You're only repelling what's come back at you. I've told you about the dangers of black magic self-spells that can damage you, such as using passive-aggressive language and not being honest with the lower aspects of your consciousness, not being, I shouldn't say lower, but deeper aspects of your consciousness. I've told you about the engaging into the magical lifestyle and how it unfolds beauty all around you. I spoke about the Golden Dawn, Enochian magic, and how you can look into that. It's probably a good one to start with, the dangers and pitfalls of both scrying, channeling, and Ouija boards, the extreme danger of them. I've read a specific write out to you from ancient Egyptian magic, but I've done it in such a way I wasn't performing the magic, so I mispronounced the words and held my hand behind my back with my two fingers crossed, and I'm also wearing a protective talisman. I've made it quite clear before I went on the air that I was not invoking the boneless one, to give you an idea. So I hope you've learned a lot tonight, and I hope this gives you the, shall we say, the encouragement to go study this further, because I can tell you that magic has been a great thing in my life. It works, it's real. It has nothing to do with hocus pocus. It has to do with working with cosmic consciousness and psychological forces through the aspects of creativity, art, science, talent, and so on, in order to make your life a more meaningful journey within this existence. It also allows you to create immortality. Now, when I say immortality, it doesn't mean necessarily that you will live to be 1,000 years old. It allows you to create works, good works, that will transcend beyond the expectations of your lifestyle. It also allows you skills to get you to help your other work. So, for instance, my no contact ever again idea to dealing with psychopaths came directly out of ritual magic. It's a kind of a nun spell. It was actually big within Slavic magic. It was a spell based on the idea that people in a community would declare somebody dead by ignoring them. Very, very powerful in order to get rid of them. It could also drive a person insane who was subject to it, especially in a small agrarian society where you didn't live, you didn't move outside your own town, or your whole world was in 20 miles of where you live for your entire life. That can be done very effectively on the internet. Do not feed the beasts. It's most important of all to be an adult about this, to be mature, because there's a lot to be gained from it. You're protecting yourself from advertising and marketing. If you're a business person, a creative person, you can take your work and your success to places you never expected. You will learn how to use language in such a way that when you talk to people, you win their confidence. It will come with very strange experiences. The synchronicities will be amazing at times, shocking at others, and sometimes profoundly puzzling. This is part of the journey. I spoke about how as you're doing this, your energetic field, your psychic field expands rapidly around you. And that's why you'll have those strange side effects of people not sitting next to you on a bus or a train, because, even though it's full, because they will believe that the train seat is subconsciously they're told that the train seat is full. Because you're occupying now a bigger, see, that's all the magic is doing really, is you're occupying a bigger psychic space within the material world than you previously had. Therefore, it's almost like a fishing net, and you can capture more. You can capture more fish with this larger fishing net, which is composed of your psychic manifestation, which is much, much, much larger. But always, always do this with a sense of reverence, a sense of respect, and also a sense of your own absurdity at times. When you make mistakes, you laugh at yourself. You don't hide behind your ego. This is the beauty of the bardic magic, the idea of creating a satire. This is why you can attain immortality this way. You can also curse someone for eternity that way too. But again, only do it to people who have attacked you or are putting someone else in danger, or putting good works in danger. Otherwise, you are a defensive magician seeking to expand your psychic footprint on this planet in order to bring you more success as a result of a more primed and more focused will. So if you want to go for it, go for it. But make sure you got your shit together before you do it. And if you do, I guarantee you, you will never look back. You will have a much more fulfilling, enriching, and interesting life. Simply because you changed gears and you brought yourself into a new engagement with this reality that's furnishing you with things that you need more than you actually want. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I hope you are looking forward to the new book. I'm very excited about it, called The Druid Code. Anyone who's interested in mythology, megaliths, and all that told from a philosophical point of view is there. Like I said, you want to help me out, go to thomassheridanarts.com. You can buy a book there. If you have no money, just share the articles around. If you want to go to my blog, buy me a pint. That's great. I'll have a pint. And thank you very much. Look after yourself, and I'll see you next week. And let's be grateful that we live in a time where we can be who we were meant to be. Good night, and feck 'em if they can't take a joke.